Hi everyone, welcome to Leases. As we go through this question, I'm going to spend not too much time going through this one for the difficult parts because generally speaking at this point you understand how to calculate present value, you understand how to do schedules. I'm just going to highlight for you a few areas in leases that I want you to pay close attention to. Now the first thing is that as you see with this question, that it's very likely that you will see a question that combines both the lessees and the lessors on your test. So therefore, in your textbook, there's great questions that have both. Practice doing both at the same time because it's confusing when you do both of them at the same time until you practice it a few times over and then you get it. So let's start. I'll take a look at the first part here that I think is a little tricky for some students, and I want to spend some time going over it with you. So in part A and B, you're basically asked to calculate the present value and determine whether or not this is a capital lease. You've mastered that by now. You know the 3 conditions for a lessee. You know the 2 conditions for a lessor. But what I've seen students struggle with over time is determining what type of a lease this is. There's a selling price of $250. There's a cost of $212,500. There's a profit here. Therefore, there's a sales type lease. Because there is a profit, it's sales type. Sounds so simple, and I want you to get that 1 mark. Let's move to part C. In the textbook, they use the same chart throughout. I dislike that chart. A lot of you probably find that chart really confusing. If you do, then stop using it. Use Steve's chart. Steve's chart, it's right there in the solutions. I think it's so easy to use that I encourage you to take a few moments and figure out how to use it. And I'll show you just how easy it is to create this. So Victoria, as you know, is basically holding the camera for me. And I'm going to use her as an example of how I would create Steve's chart so easily. So I'm going to lend Victoria right now $100. That is my beginning of period amount or my opening balance. She's going to take this $100 and she's going to go to the bookstore and buy a book. She does. It's for $90. She comes back and she gives me a payment back of $10 all in that first day. So her payment is $10. So what does she really owe me after 1 day that I can charge interest to? Well, she owes me $90. So the balance after payment is $90. That $90 is what I can charge interest on. So if I'm going to charge interest of 10% because she told me she'll pay me back in a year, then the interest amount will be $9 for that first year. And my end of period amount then would be $99, the 90 plus the 9. If you actually take a look at Steve's chart and you think of this example that I went over in class and of course on the video here, you will see that you can create the chart exactly the same way. And it makes it so simple because all the information you need for the first period or the first year is all in one row. And that's key. Whereas the textbook chart has information on several rows, and it makes it really hard to figure out what number to basically use to do your journal entries. Now, the last thing I want to point out here for you is that when you are doing this problem and you're doing it for the lessee and the lessor, there's no rule that says you must do this D, E, F, and G. Do D and F first. Focus on how the lessee would do the journal entries. Then focus on E and G, how the lessor will do the journal entries. Your instructor will not deduct marks for you by having these out of order. So that's something to pay close attention to as you're going through and doing the journal entries. You'll also notice these journal entries are worth a lot of marks. In this question alone, they're worth 11 marks. You really want to make sure you're organized with this. The last thing I want to talk to you about, and where students, generally speaking, lose marks and why I created this video series, is the executory costs. Those journal entry items that you seem to overlook because you're spending so much time mastering what you think are the hardest ones. And they are, but I don't want you to lose those easy marks. So if you take a look at the solutions, you'll actually see I've got the lessee entries in green and the lessor entries in yellow when it comes to the executory costs. And you can see how they are handled. So pay close attention to that as you are practicing doing this question. And if you do that, I bet you'll do great on the test. Hope that helps. Thank you.